Hey friends, Ari Koinuma here. Thanks for joining me today. Today I wanted to share with you my thoughts on probably what I consider very foundational idea of what makes a human relationship or what starts one. And that's the idea of common ground. So this video was inspired by my recent posting in my highly sensitive forums that I frequent, where people have been struggling with the idea of loneliness and not having meaningful connections with other people. And I find myself kind of repeating the same core concepts in different words, catering to each situation, but more or less the same concept. So I just thought, hey, let me make a video in which I kind of describe what I think is the foundational sort of concepts, what I think is the basic ideas. And this have been something that I apply in my life myself, in that, like, let's say even like a year ago, I would have considered myself a very lonely person with not very many friends with whom I could have meaningful connections with. And as I went on my personal growth journey recently, I feel like my social life is really blossoming. Now, you know, the time is being what it is definitely more about online, long distance, video chat and text kind of relationships, but I've been able to have just really frequent conversations about really deep and meaningful and personal stuff. So I really feel like my social life is turning a corner for the better. And so I would love for anybody else out there who feels like they're lonely and they don't know how to sort of make meaningful connections. And so I'm hoping that a video like this will be helpful. Okay, so when we're talking about any relationships, and I primarily would think of this as a friendships to start out with, although the same concept applies very much to romantic relationships, and then for my musician friends this also applies to like artists to fans or build your audience type situation as well. So the number one basic idea about relationship that I see is the fact that relationships are formed on common grounds. So I might draw a circle, right? That is you, and I might draw another circle and say that's them, right? And the overlapping area in the middle, the greater this area is right here, that indicates the stronger potential for friendships or relationships. Okay, now what do you mean when I say, well, what do I mean when I say common grounds, right? Common grounds. It's kind of split in three areas, so I'm going to just kind of draw a line. And I would consider that as the bottom one being values, and the second one is self-worth, and the third one is experience. So let me explain each of these in a little more detail. So I think the values is probably pretty self-explanatory. If you and your friend don't share values, if you don't have common values, that's kind of a non-starter for your friendship. Values like, you know, what's right, what's wrong, what's appropriate, ethics, that sort of thing, right? You want to have common values, and given the current climate, it might have to extend to certain political values or sensibilities as well, but even again, you know, if the particulars of like political beliefs or tactics are sort of different, if you have fundamental values that, for example, we want to be good to each other and we want to take care of each other, I mean, I think there's a lot of common ground there to work with. But fundamental being, yeah, you want to have common values. On the top, the experience covers things like interests, right? And also common experience of like a geographical location like you're in. You might have a common experience with your neighbors based on like things like weather or local happenings, right? You've been to the same school or you have the same job. All those are sort of common grounds that form the experience layer of the relationship. Is that it's going to be hard to form a relationship with somebody with whom you have absolutely no shared experience. And by shared, it doesn't have to be that you actually went and did something together, right? This happens with my sort of a highly sensitive person circle all the time, where my experience of being a sensitive man or sensitive person to begin with, you know, has something common experience with others who are of the same temperament. So it creates a strong bonding going, oh yeah, I've experienced that, right? And you have too, right? Being called like you're too sensitive or you toughen up, that sort of thing. That can form the basis for the experience, the common layer. Now, this middle one is an interesting one, self-worth. So I want to draw a little bit more on this side here. So let's say that, you know, we have a range, and this is high self-worth, and this is low self-worth, and you are unfortunately down here. And what happens is that when you have low self-worth, again, relationships are built on common ground. So your friends also tend to be of low self-worth. And that's just the reality of how you relate to each other. Is like something like low self-worth is so fundamental to our character or being that it's harder to relate to each other otherwise. I think this extends to other sort of basic things like socio-economic sort of a range, like somebody with a lot of money might not relate to somebody with not as much money, or somebody with sort of a lot of friends, or artists, or actors with a lot of fans may not relate to somebody who's starting out and don't have any supporters. I think that's also tend to be true, but I think under it all is the idea of self-worth. So just something to watch out for is that if you start out going, you know, I don't like myself, I think I am ugly or undesirable, I don't deserve a lot of things, a lot of friends, I have to work hard and earn the right to receive love, right? These are all sort of sentiments that are common when you have fundamentally low self-worth. Unfortunately, try as hard as you may, you're going to have probably friends with similar levels of self-worth, and your relationships will be reflective of the fact that everybody is carrying around those concerns. And what can happen is that as you work on your own inner issues and your self-worth start increasing, I bet you know where I'm going with this. Other people don't really make that journey with you, right? You can't expect them to. None of us can really change another person. You may be able to inspire them, especially if you stay in close contact and really have an honest and transparent relationship. It's possible, but you can't really count on that. So unfortunately, what probably will happen is that as you move up from low self-worth to high self-worth, your relationship might change and you stop relating to each other and you move up here and you might make other friends, new friends who are up here with you. But part of the big issue that I see with, again, people who suffer from loneliness and people who feel like they give a lot and not receiving as much in return, these kind of issues, is I feel like it's really fundamentally rooted in low self-worth. And part of the problem is that when you are low self-worth, you don't think you are naturally a likable person as you are, so you end up relying on providing value, almost like a business transaction. You say, okay, let me do this for you so that you will like me, right? Let me give this to you so that you can give me something back, right? Let me sacrifice myself for you so that you will sacrifice back to me, that sort of thing. And that kind of transactional sort of thought in relationship works to some extent, but it's kind of rife with drama of going, oh, I give them so much but I'm not getting back, or I feel offended because they don't return it the same way that I want it to be returned, that kind of thing. It's fundamental to do that, again, in the fact that you don't deserve friendship or relationship unless you have to work for it, unless you have to earn it, right? So even if you feel like you have friends or you have loved ones, but you feel like your relationships are turbulent and you end up feeling let down or betrayed or frustrated a lot in your friendships and relationships, this is the area that you can work on, is that as you work on yourself so that you start to like yourself more, you start to accept yourself more, you think that you actually are likable and good person without trying too hard, then what happens is that when you reach out and look for people with common grounds, you don't feel as much of a sort of fear-based motivation to say, oh yeah, I better give and I better be a super good friend so that that person will like me, right? We are nice to each other, we are friendly and we are honorable because that is the right thing to do, and we care about our friends, so we naturally want to do. But when you have higher self-worth, gone is this idea that I am doing this to get something in return, right? You reach out to your friends and you become a good friend because you care about the other person and you think it's the right thing to do, and you care less about what the other person will do to you in return. But then since there are other high self-worth folks too, they will sort of again come back to you with their own ideas of what it means to be a good friend to you, and you will recognize that, right? So there's less drama, a lot more stability, and just all in all, you have a lot more sort of a authentic relationship when you can operate among the high self-worth circles. So to sum it up, I think it really helps when you understand that all relationships, excluding like family ones where you kind of given, it wasn't your choice, right? All relationships that you form based on your choice are based on common grounds. And again, you need to have shared values, you want to have some common experience. But if you're having problems, you want to work actually on the self-worth, and that will lead to actually your social life improving. In fact, I would take that even a step further and say that if you want to, again, be able to attract or create or make great friends and significant others and audience or fans, what you want to work on is becoming the greatest person that you can be, right? If you embody the kind of friend that you're looking for, the loyal, dedicated, caring, supportive person, and if you can naturally become that without sort of having this third degree of going, okay, I'm doing this for you so that you can do something for me, right? Then you will have that in common with people you will encounter, and that's a win-win situation. So I know it's counterintuitive, but to make friends, you want to start with yourself, right? It's not about going out and like trying to do different tactics or technique, this and that, to sort of win, sort of manufacture relationships. You want to sort of become the kind of friend that you're looking for yourself. Then over the course of you becoming that person authentically and sharing that authentic self with other people, people who resonate with who you are, you will have this common ground and you have great friends. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching. What do you think of my concept of the foundation of friendships and relationships? I would really love to know, even when you don't really agree with this or if you have different ideas, right? So please leave me a comment and I'll respond as I can. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.